Welcome, dear listener. As you settle into stillness, let the day fall gently away, like leaves drifting from a quiet tree. Here, in the hush between wakefulness and sleep, there is nothing you must do, nothing to hold on to, nothing to fix or find. Just breathe, just be. Tonight we begin a soft and curious journey into the mind, not to chase answers, but to wander where memory lives, where thoughts are born, and where forgotten moments go when they no longer visit you. This is not a story of sharp facts and loud conclusions. It is a lullaby made of neurons and dreams, a map drawn in whisper and wonder. So close your eyes, if you like, or simply let them grow heavy. The science will unfold like a tide, gentle and slow, as we ask the quietest question: where do lost thoughts truly go? And slowly, gently, we will begin to remember what it means to forget. You lie still, your body a quiet shore, the day's noise having receded like a slow tide. In the hush that follows, something stirs, not outside, but within. It is subtle, like the faintest rustle of leaves in windless air, the almost sound of your own heartbeat echoing in a place you forgot existed. In the folds of your brain, buried beneath layers of thought and time, a spark flickers. Not a thought, not yet. Something more ancient, more elemental. A whisper of memory. This first whisper does not arrive in words. It comes as a feeling, a sensation. Perhaps the weight of light on your skin, a rhythm in your mother's voice before you knew her face, a flicker of warmth, a smell you cannot name but know. Your earliest memories live not in sentences, but in the quiet language of the body. They are patterns, pulses, shadows of sensation stitched into your nervous system. They arrive not as facts, but as familiarity. You do not remember the moment you first learned to breathe or to feel hunger, but your body does. It has never forgotten. Inside your brain, cells reach toward each other like dancers in slow motion. Neurons stretch delicate arms, dendrites, toward neighboring cells. When two meet in just the right way, a synapse forms, a fragile bridge. Across it, chemicals pass like whispered secrets, linking one cell's fire to the next. These tiny flickers, electrical, chemical, alive, are how memories begin. They are not stored in one place like books on a shelf. They are woven through you, 1,000 points of connection, always shifting, reshaping. As an infant, your brain is a storm of potential. Billions of neurons fire, form connections, dissolve and reform. This is neuroplasticity, the brain's astonishing ability to shape itself through experience. It is as if you were born with a limitless garden, and every experience is a seed. Some seeds sprout, take root, and grow thick with repetition. Others fade, forgotten, before they ever bloom. But even these, even the ones that vanish, leave traces in the soil. Your first true memory may not be one you can name. It is not a birthday or a face or a room. It is something older than words. The sound of a lullaby, the steady rhythm of a rocking chair, the shape of safety. These moments, soft and primal, are coded into you through your senses. The brain remembers in pattern before it remembers in story. Touch, sound, rhythm, scent. These are the first brushes on memory's canvas. The hippocampus, nestled deep in your brain center, is where many of these first impressions pass through. It is not the keeper of memory, but the weaver. Like fingers braiding strands of silk, it gathers the threads of an experience, the color of light, the tone of voice, the pulse of your heart, and begins to knit them into something lasting. This process is not instant. It takes time, repetition, emotion. The memory must matter. The memory must ask to stay. But even then it may not last. The brain, wise in its own quiet way, chooses what to keep. It must. To hold everything would be to drown, so it forgets, or rather, it lets go. It trims what has not taken root. In the early years, this pruning is fierce. Entire forests of connections are swept away. Only the strongest paths survive, and this is a gift too, for it is in forgetting that clarity begins. In letting go, the mind learns how to hold. You are not passive in this process. Even as a baby, your attention shapes your brain. What you look at, what you reach for, what makes you feel safe or afraid. These experiences sculpt the neural landscape within you. The brain follows your gaze. If you return to a sound, it returns with you, reinforcing the path. If you flinch from something, the brain marks it. It records not just events, but meaning. Not just moments, but mood. And so, memory is born not only of facts, but of feeling. It is emotional before it is intellectual. A frightened moment will leave deeper grooves than a neutral one. Joy, too, carves its space. This is why we remember what makes us feel. The brain, after all, is not just trying to recall the world, it is trying to keep you alive. What matters to your heart matters to your memory. As you lie here now, thinking back, it may seem like those earliest years are lost to you. And in a way, they are. But not entirely. Those memories, the proverbial sensory ones, are not gone. They are simply stored in a different vault, one with no key of language. They emerge not through thought, but through sensation. That sudden feeling of safety when someone hums just the right tune, the warmth that floods your chest when a scent reminds you of home, these are echoes of your beginning. Your brain, in this very moment, is still capable of such wonders. Neuroplasticity does not end with childhood. The connections you form tonight, with this story, with your own breath, with the calm settling over you, are real. They may be small, delicate, but they matter. You are always shaping your mind. Even now, even here, every time you recall something, a face, a moment, a song. Your brain does not simply retrieve it. It recreates it. This is called reconsolidation. Like editing a memory while rereading it. Each time it changes subtly. The neurons fire again, slightly differently. The paths strengthen or weaken. Memory is a living thing, not fixed, not frozen. It breathes. And so the first whisper of a memory is not a single moment, but a collection of beginnings. It is a rhythm that finds you in the dark, a feeling that wraps around you like a blanket, a spark that leaps between cells in a language no one taught you, but that you've always known. As you fall deeper into this chapter, consider how much of your mind is made not of the things you can list, but of the things you can feel. Consider that memory is not so much a record, but a rhythm, a song played softly across time, shaped by attention and emotion. This is where we begin, not with names or dates, but with sensations, with quiet pulses in the dark, with the gentle realization that you're not separate from your memories, you're made of them. You're the shape they've left behind. And even as some grow faint, their echoes remain. A sound, a scent, a rhythm. And suddenly the past breathes again. Not in full, not always clearly, but enough to remind you that nothing meaningful ever disappears completely. It simply waits, quiet and still, for the right light to return. Let that light be tonight. Let this moment, this story, this stillness, be a first whisper once more. And now, with a softened breath, your thoughts begin to turn, not away, but inward, toward the place where memory becomes something more than storage, something more like meaning, something more like time folded gently into thought. Where will these thoughts go next? You wonder. Perhaps into the chamber where time takes shape. You linger at the threshold, where the last chapter's breath still echoes, the idea that memories do not vanish, but wait. Tonight, you move deeper, gently carried into the heart of something more elusive. Time itself. Not time as clocks measure it, not the ticking or turning of hands, but time as your mind knows it, soft, fragmented, and personal. Here, in this quiet space, memory is not a mirror. It is a mosaic, a shimmering mosaic of light and shadow, shaped not by chronology, but by feeling. You do not remember your life as it happened in order. That is not how the mind gathers time. Instead, you recall what glows, what aches, what stays. Your memories are not stored like photographs in neat rows. They are scattered across your mind like constellations, connected not by date, but by meaning. The sound of your grandmother's laughter might sit beside the scent of rain on dry leaves. A childhood fear may share a corridor with the thrill of your first independent step. These are not accidents. They are the mind's architecture. As you lie still now, suspended between sleep and thought, you float through your hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped structure nestled deep within your brain. The hippocampus is not the archive of your memories. It is the librarian, the dream weaver. It decides what to hold and what to let drift away. And it does so not by measuring time in hours or days, but by feeling. Emotion is the ink, attention is the glue. A moment that startled you, that lifted your heart or filled your eyes, will press more deeply into the folds of your brain than 100 ordinary days. This is why time in memory stretches and shrinks. An hour of joy can linger forever. A whole year of sameness might blur into silence. You do not remember all moments equally. You remember what stirred you. The hippocampus collects. It sifts through experience like a riverbed sorting stones. Not all are kept, many wash past, but some, those shaped by significance, are held. They are sent across networks to the cortex, where they settle into longer-term forms, and still they are not fixed. They ripple, shimmer, change. For memory, you see, is never still. It reshapes itself each time you return to it. Every act of remembering is also an act of editing, and yet, even in this fluid dance, there is an order, a rhythm. The hippocampus does not simply hoard the past, it maps it. It creates spatial and temporal context. That is, it links memories to places and times, not precisely, but intuitively. You might not recall the exact date of a conversation, but you remember the slope of the hill where it happened, the smell in the air, the feeling of dusk settling on your shoulders. Time, in memory, is not a calendar. It is a landscape. As you breathe here, calmly and curiously, imagine walking through a forest at dusk. Each tree is a memory. Some are bare, some are in bloom, others have shed their leaves long ago. The path you walk is not straight. It winds, loops, and sometimes vanishes. Yet you find your way, not by following steps, but by sensing what draws you. That is how memory works. That is how your mind gathers time, and the act of gathering never ends. Even now, as you listen, your brain is making choices. This moment, this stillness, is being weighed. The hippocampus takes note of the calm, the rhythm, the images that linger. It may decide to keep them. It may tuck them gently into a drawer you will not open for years, until one quiet evening a similar breath brings them back. There is a reason emotions play such a large role in memory. The brain's emotional center, the amygdala, sits beside the hippocampus, close like an old friend. When something moves you, the amygdala activates. It signals the hippocampus. This matters. Remember this. And so it does. Trauma and joy, fear and love. These are woven more tightly into memory's cloth than neutral moments. The amygdala marks them in bold. This interplay between feeling and remembering is why your memories of time are uneven. It is why some years feel vivid and some disappear entirely. It is why the scent of pine can return you to a winter decades gone. Why a song can bring tears without words. These are not tricks of nostalgia. They are truths of biology. The hippocampus gathers time by following the heart, and still, memory is not perfect, nor should it be. The gaps, the blurs, the overlaps, these too are part of the design. Forgetting is not a failure. It is a form of grace. It allows your mind to prioritize, to focus, to keep from drowning in detail, to let go of what no longer serves. The mind gathers time not as a record keeper but as a storyteller. It curates your past so you can live your present. Imagine for a moment all the days you have lived as beads on a string. Some are bright, some faded, a few are missing. But the shape they form, the rhythm they create, that is your sense of time. Not the beads themselves, but the way they move between your fingers. That is how the mind holds your life. Even dreams, fleeting and strange, play a role in this gathering. The hippocampus stays active during sleep, reprocessing events, choosing what to consolidate. Some memories are rehearsed, others softened, a few dissolved. This nightly rhythm helps you wake ready, not just refreshed, but reformed. You do not remember your dreams every night, but they shape you all the same. They are the mind's quiet gardeners. And what of time's illusions? How one afternoon can stretch forever, and another month vanish. That too belongs to memory. Your sense of time's passing is shaped not by what the clock says, but by what your mind has kept. A year full of novelty and change feels longer in retrospect than a year of sameness. It is not age that makes time speed up. It is repetition. Novelty expands memory. Routine compresses it. This is why travel feels spacious in hindsight, why childhood summers seemed endless, why heartbreak slows time and joy can lift it like a feather. Your brain tracks not time but meaning. That is its clock. That is its truth. As you float deeper into rest, know this. Even now your hippocampus is listening. It is listening for rhythm, for repetition, for softness and surprise. It does not need grandeur to remember. It needs presence. What you feel now, the comfort of the covers, the quiet of your room, the cadence of this voice, these may become part of you. Not in full, not clearly, but in essence. You do not need to try to remember. You are already doing it. Every breath, every thought, every flicker, they find their way. Some will stay, some will drift. But all pass through this chamber, where time takes shape not in seconds, but in significance. And perhaps this is the most beautiful thing, that memory is not simply about holding on. It is about being changed. The past is not what you store. It is what you carry forward, transformed. You are, in many ways, your own storyteller. You choose what to revisit, and each time the story grows softer, rounder, more your own. So rest now in the knowledge that your memories are not fixed shelves but flowing rivers. You cannot step into the same one twice, but you can listen to the water. You can feel its current. You can trust it to take you somewhere worth remembering. And if you wonder where all these memories go, how they link and loop and nest, perhaps the answer lies in the spaces between them, in the gentle web that ties one thought to the next, one year to another, in the echoes that reach not only backward but inward. You do not merely remember time, you are time gathered. And as you begin to drift, one question lingers, gentle as a sigh. If this is how the mind gathers time, how then does it know when to let go? And as that gentle question drifts through you, how does the mind know when to let go? You feel your body loosening, softening into the rhythm of night. The world outside begins to blur at the edges, but something within you brightens. Because even as you sleep, your brain does not dim. It glows, quietly, consistently, like a lighthouse guiding ships through a fog you'll never see. Tonight, you will fall asleep not into silence, but into sorting, into whispering motion behind closed eyes, into the great invisible work of remembering and releasing. Sleep is not a shutdown, it is a shift. Your waking self may step away from the world, but the world inside you continues its quiet work. You lie still, yet your brain pulses with activity. You may feel stillness, but beneath that stillness waves roll. Sleep is not an absence. It is another kind of presence, one that gathers, sifts, and smooths the rawness of the day. In the earlier stages of sleep, your brain gently descends through layers, like a diver moving deeper into calm waters. Light sleep wraps around you first. This is where you float, between thoughts, between breaths. In this stage, your brain begins to ease the grip on the outside world. Muscles loosen, heart rate slows, but within the calm, flickers remain. You're still partially awake, like a child dozing with the light on. Then, as your breath deepens, you move further inward. Here, in non-REM sleep, your brain waves grow longer, slower, as if the tide were pulling back across the sand. Within this gentle rhythm, something beautiful begins. Tiny bursts of electrical activity spark across your brain. These are sleep spindles, sudden short-lived flares that last just a second or two. They are the brain's nighttime choreography, and they matter more than they seem. Sleep spindles help you retain what matters. They flicker across the thalamus and cortex, drawing connections between fragments of memory, reinforcing the ones worth keeping. Like fireflies marking a path through a dark forest, they light up the important moments of your day, the ones with meaning, the ones your hippocampus selected. These flickers help transfer those memories from temporary storage into long-term keeping. Imagine the sleep spindle as a gentle, hand reaching out in the dark, finding something fragile, a moment, a sensation, a lesson, and tucking it carefully into a quieter part of your mind. Not to forget it, but to preserve it. Not to relive it, but to carry it forward, softened, integrated. All while you rest, unaware, and not all is saved. That is part of the wonder. Some memories dissolve during sleep. Not all experiences deserve space in your long-term collection. This is not loss. It is pruning, like a gardener snipping away what's no longer needed so that the rest may thrive. Your brain in sleep is an editor, a curator. It asks gently, what do we need? What can we let go? This process is not mechanical. It is emotional. Sleep does not just store facts, it stores feelings. Emotional experiences are prioritized. A small embarrassment may be kept longer than a large neutral event. Why? Because your brain is wired to value emotional resonance. What you feel, it remembers. And in dreams, those feelings may surface again, not in form but in texture. Dreams are not replayed tapes. They are not literal. They are the mind's poetry. Metaphor, motion, meaning without logic. They stir the memory soup. They mix faces with landscapes, voices with moments that never happened. But in that blend, something new emerges. Associations form, emotions resolve. Dreams are not separate from memory. They are part of memory making. You might dream of flying, of falling, of being lost or found. The content may be strange, but the purpose is real. Dreams help regulate emotion. They soften sharpness. They bring color to memory. They allow the brain to reframe, to reinterpret. This is why, after sleep, some burdens feel lighter, some fears less sharp, some insights clearer. The night has worked on you quietly. Deep sleep, the slowest, most restorative stage, is where this memory magic truly deepens. During this stage, waves of brain activity wash over the cortex, cleaning and resetting. This is when the hippocampus sends its packages to the cortex, the memories worth keeping shaped gently into form. This is when forgetting happens too, kind forgetting, like a tide pulling away sand that no longer needs to stay. And something even stranger occurs. While you sleep, your brain undergoes what scientists call glymphatic clearance. A wash of cerebrospinal fluid flows through the brain, cleaning out waste products that build up during waking hours. Like a janitor sweeping the floor after a long day, your brain is rinsed, restored. This cleansing may also help preserve memory, protect against decay, and maintain the clarity of thought. Even the shape of your memories may change in sleep. Pieces of different experiences blend. Solutions to problems appear, not through thinking but through dreaming. Your brain is not idle, it is creative. Artists, scientists, and writers alike have found answers not while awake, but after rest. Sleep is not separate from creativity. It is its soil, and while your conscious self rests, parts of your brain remain alert. The brainstem monitors your breathing. The limbic system remains slightly active, ready to register danger. Evolution has made sleep safe, but not numb. You're not unconscious. You're differently aware. The lights are still on, just dimmed, just filtered. So what of nightmares? Why do they visit, sometimes uninvited? Even these have purpose. They bring unresolved emotions to the surface. They allow rehearsal of fear in safe environments. They show what has not yet been soothed. Your brain, in its wisdom, processes not just joy but pain. To forget trauma, it must first be felt, and in dreams it is. As you lie here now, drifting, this process begins again. The events of your day float up like feathers. Some settle gently, others are caught by sleep spindles. Some dissolve into the dark. You do not control it. You do not need to. Your brain has done this every night of your life. It knows what to keep. It knows what to release. And it does this with grace. You may wonder, if so much is happening during sleep, why do I not remember it? The answer is gentle. Sleep is not for remembering the night. It is for remembering the day. The work is quiet because it is sacred. Memory needs rest to take root, and the forgetting? That is part of the design. You remember what matters, not because you choose it, but because your brain knows. And so, as you sink deeper now, know this: you're not drifting into nothing. You're entering the most vital part of memory's dance. Sleep is the mind's dark room, where the day's impressions develop, where clarity is born in silence. You sleep, but you're not gone. You're being shaped gently, quietly, beautifully. And when you wake, tomorrow, next week, or many years from now, something from this very moment may remain. A trace, a tone, a whisper of a thought. Not the whole story, but a part of it, carried forward like light inside a seed. The lights are still on, but the room has grown quiet. And if your memories are being folded gently now, if your thoughts are being softened into dreams, you may wonder next, how do these private recollections ever become shared? Where do memories go when we begin to tell them aloud? For a while, you simply breathe. You're still in the hush of night, not quite awake, not fully asleep, somewhere in the gentle middle where memory loosens its grip. The thoughts you carried yesterday begin to lift, as if weightless in this slow drift of time. Around you, silence. Inside you, something stirs, not a sound, but the absence of it. Not a thought, but the fading of one. Forgetting, you realize, doesn't arrive with fanfare. It enters like a breeze, a soft pruning of the mind's overgrown paths. You lie still, and the garden begins to trim itself. It may surprise you that forgetting is not the enemy of memory. In truth, it is its quiet twin. Every garden needs its gardener, and in your mind there is one who works without shears or tools, without urgency or noise. What is no longer needed is not torn out. It is gently let go, like a leaf browning in autumn, curling in the hand of time, and falling not as failure but as permission. This is not erasure. This is balance. The mind forgets to make room for remembering. Your brain is not a vault. It is a living forest, ever growing, ever shedding. And deep within its thickets, a process known as synaptic pruning takes place. Connections between neurons, those tiny messengers of thought, are thinned with care. Not randomly, not cruelly, but with a wisdom honed over millions of years. Like a gardener who knows which branches must be trimmed so the tree can flourish. The pruning helps the strongest connections survive. The most useful pathways shine a little brighter. And what's not needed anymore? It fades, not in shame, but in peace. You might imagine a child learning a language. At first, their brain is wide open, absorbing every sound, every rhythm. But as they grow, their mind becomes more selective. It keeps what's used often and gently releases the rest. This is the miracle of forgetting. It is how we shape knowledge, not just collect it. It is how we keep the garden from becoming overrun. And it happens even now as you rest. Deep in sleep, glial cells, the mind's gentle caretakers, sweep through your brain like nighttime janitors, clearing away excess proteins and debris. This is part of your glymphatic system, named for the glial cells that guide it. Picture tiny rivers flowing through your brain, washing away what is no longer needed. These waves don't destroy, they cleanse, they make space. The memories you do keep are not stored whole and untouched. They are reshaped with each recall, softened at the edges, coloured by emotion. And those you do not call back, they begin to fade, not vanishing completely, but becoming more distant, like a shoreline slowly slipping from view. This is not failure. It is how the brain protects you from drowning in too much. You may wonder, what decides what stays and what goes? The answer lies partly in relevance, partly in emotion. If something matters deeply, if it frightened you, thrilled you, made you weep, it tends to stay. Emotional charge acts like glue for memory, but even strong memories can blur if not revisited. The garden must still be tended. Even the brightest flowers wilt without light. There is a beauty in forgetting that often goes unnoticed. Without it, you would never learn anew. Each day would collapse under the weight of everything. You would remember every face in every crowd, every word in every conversation, every pain with equal vividness. Forgetting is how the mind breathes. It is how you heal. When the sharp edges of sorrow soften over time, that too is forgetting. And that too is grace. In the hippocampus, your brain's memory hub, new neurons are born even into adulthood. This neurogenesis is one of the reasons you can keep learning, keep adapting. But for these new growths to thrive, space must be made. Old patterns must loosen. You cannot grow endlessly without letting go. Even nature knows this. Trees drop leaves so they may bloom again. So as you lie here, listening to the hush between thoughts, imagine your mind as a garden in evening light. There are winding paths and mossy stones. Some trails you walk often, others disappear under ivy. Some memories remain clear, footsteps worn into the soil, others are overgrown, and some, like flowers past their season, have folded back into the earth. Not gone, just returned to silence. In forgetting, there is rhythm, a pulse. Just as your breath has both inhale and exhale, memory has both holding on and letting go. You do not fail when you forget. You evolve. The mind edits not to diminish you, but to clarify you, to help you carry only what matters into the next moment, to free your hands so they may reach for something new. The term for this gentle decay is memory decay theory. Over time, unused memories lose their potency, like ink fading in sunlight, like footprints washed away by tide. But under certain conditions, a scent, a song, a sudden feeling, they may return. Not always fully, but enough to remind you they were never completely lost. They simply waited, and sometimes the brain lets go with more intention. In moments of trauma, it may wall off certain memories for safety. These are not forgotten in the usual sense. They are buried for protection, held in silence until the mind is ready to face them. Even forgetting can be an act of care. You've likely experienced this. The name on the tip of your tongue, the face you recognize but can't quite place, the childhood moment that feels close yet unreachable. These are the ghosts of memory, not haunting but hovering. They remind you that memory is not binary. It is not kept or lost. It is a spectrum, a slow dance between remembering and release. As you move deeper into this quiet, Notice how your body begins to mirror the mind's soft letting go. Muscles unclench, breath slows, even your heartbeat follows the lullaby of forgetting. This is not disappearance, it is restoration. It is the clearing of a path you may walk again, or perhaps never return to. Both are okay. And when you meet someone again and can't remember their name, when you forget why you walked into a room, when yesterday's dream dissolves before morning, be gentle with yourself. This is the garden doing its work. This is the pruning that protects the bloom. Because what remains after forgetting is often more than enough. It is the core, the seed, the light of understanding unburdened by excess. What you hold on to becomes clearer when the clutter falls away. You do not need to carry everything. You never did. Even language reflects this truth. We say, "Forget me not," as if to plead against the tide. But sometimes, even, forgetting can be a gift, a kindness, a way to honour what was without being bound to it. In the garden of forgetting, every loss makes space for new growth. And so, tonight, allow your thoughts to loosen. Let what no longer serves you gently fall. Trust that what you need will remain, and that forgetting is not an end, but a beginning, a way to make room for wonder. And perhaps you may begin to feel it now, a shift not in memory, but in meaning. A recognition that what you forget doesn't always vanish. Sometimes it transforms into feelings, into habits, into quiet understandings you carry without even knowing. So rest here, in the garden. Let the petals fall, let the soil turn, and trust that, even in forgetting, something is growing still. But before you drift too far into the hush, a gentle question begins to form, like a bud about to open. If some memories are trimmed to make room for new ones, what happens when those memories are shared, not just within you, but between you and someone else? What grows in the space where minds meet? Somewhere within you, beneath the quiet rustling of daily awareness, deeper than dreams and gentler than words, certain thoughts lie waiting. They are not lost, not really. They have simply drifted, like seeds on wind, into the quieter corners of your mind. You may not reach them often, or even remember they exist, but they are there, sleeping perhaps, or watching, like stars that have dipped below the horizon but not out of the sky. You feel them now, don't you? A faint ache, a tug in the chest, a moment you almost remember. It hovers just outside language, just beyond reach. These are your resting thoughts, memories not erased but softened, worn smooth by time, tucked into silence, not because they are unimportant, but because the mind cannot hold everything at once, and so gently it chooses what to carry in the open light and what to wrap in shadow. And it is in this wrapping, this gentle laying down, that forgetting begins to resemble something far more tender than loss. You step inward now, deeper into your mind's soft forest. The light grows dimmer, not with fear, but with calm. These are the quiet places. The hippocampus still watches nearby, like a careful gardener. But here, the work is slower. There is no rush to organize or encode, no urgency to remember. Here, the brain rests its busy hands and lets old impressions breathe. A smell from childhood, the sound of a name you once whispered into a hallway, the shape of someone's laughter. These moments haven't vanished. They've merely grown quieter. Neurologists might tell you that these memories have weakened synaptic connections, that their neural pathways, once lit like glowing trails, have dimmed, and the traffic of thought no longer flows as freely along them. But that doesn't mean they are gone. It only means they sleep. Like embers beneath ash, they wait for the right breath to stir them back into flame. There's a term scientists use, reconsolidation. It describes the way a memory, once reawakened, becomes fluid again, able to shift, to grow, even to change before settling once more. You may have experienced it, a sudden smell, and an entire summer day floods back into your mind. A song, and you're walking down a street you haven't seen in years. That's reconsolidation, a soft return, a reminder that time doesn't erase as much as it rearranges, and so you walk carefully now, deeper into the folds of your own forgetting. This is not a place of emptiness. It is a place of preservation, of rest, of pause. Thoughts here are not unwanted. They are simply unneeded, for now, like letters tucked into drawers, like photographs waiting in the dark to be developed. You pass through memories shaped like music. Some are only rhythms now. No melody, no story, just the sensation of a time. Others appear as textures. The feeling of sand in your shoe, the hush of snow against your coat. These are impressions that never quite made it into words, but somehow still echo inside you. Their language is not linear, it is sensory, subtle, almost dreamlike. Sometimes the brain forgets for your sake. It isn't failure, it's protection. To keep you from pain too great to carry every day. To allow joy its room by gently folding the shadows behind it. Studies show that trauma can fragment memory, tucking parts away into mental drawers you rarely open. But healing too can awaken what was hidden, with safety, with time, with care. You're not a machine. Your mind does not archive like a computer. It moves like water. It flows, evaporates, condenses, and sometimes floods. Forgetting is not deletion. It is mist. It is breath. And perhaps the most beautiful truth of all is that forgetting can make remembering more powerful. If everything were always present, nothing would feel special. The spark of a recovered thought, that sudden gasp of familiarity, is made possible by absence. And so even your lost thoughts serve a purpose. Even silence sings. You find yourself pausing beside one of these sleeping memories. You don't know what it holds, but you can feel it there. A warmth, a hush, a familiarity without form. Like holding someone's hand in the dark and knowing it's them, even without seeing their face. This is how your mind holds its quietest stories, not by force, but by feeling. Neuroscience tells us that certain forgotten memories live in the cortex, stored far from the bustling activity of working thought. They become dormant, not dead, just hidden from daily light. Sometimes they return on their own, sometimes they never do, but their presence shapes you. They influence how you react, what you love, what you fear. Not consciously, perhaps, but subtly, like gravity pulling things together without being seen. And even if you never recall them again, these memories have left fingerprints. In your voice, in your choices, in your quietest hopes. You are made not only of what you remember, but also of what you've forgotten. You begin to feel a kind of reverence now, for the lost, for the overlooked, for the parts of yourself you no longer name, and in that reverence a stillness. You do not need to recover everything to be whole. You are already whole, shaped by memory, guided by meaning, cradled in mystery. So you rest here, in this hush, in this gentle cave of thought. Around you, forgotten moments breathe slowly, not demanding to be known, just existing, like fossils under the soil, like seeds under snow, and you realize forgetting is not the opposite of remembering. It is part of the same dance, the inhale and the exhale, the silence between notes, the space that lets the music live. One day, perhaps, you will touch one of these sleeping memories again, not by trying, but by being, by walking the same street, hearing the same sound, or maybe by sitting beside someone who remembers it with you. Because memory is not only solitary, it is shared. It travels between minds. It echoes in stories, in glances, in touch. And sometimes, what is forgotten by one person is remembered by another, held safe in the gentle hands of connection. You feel that now, a stirring, not from within, but from beyond, a whisper not your own, a memory that belongs to someone else, but touches something inside you. Could it be that the resting place of lost thoughts is not just within your brain, but between you and others? And so the question returns. Not heavy, not urgent, just soft. What grows in the space where minds meet? Chapter 6. The Gentle Strength of Emotion. What grows in the space where minds meet? Perhaps it is something more than memory, more than fact, date, or image. Perhaps it is something living, something warm. Tonight you follow that warmth inward, gently, as if stepping into a hush held between two heartbeats. The thought lingers, that memories do not always begin in the mind. Some begin in the chest, just behind the ribs, where breath and feeling find each other and sit quietly together. This is where emotion lives, not as a thing, but as a movement, a rise, a pull, a pause. You feel it before you understand it, the way a song catches in your throat, the way your body softens when someone smiles with kindness. Emotion isn't something separate from memory. It is the cradle that holds it, the tide that carries it inward. Without feeling, the memory fades more quickly, but with feeling, even the smallest tremor of joy or sorrow, a moment can carve itself into you so deeply that time cannot erase it. Your brain, ever gentle, ever busy, wraps emotion around memory like thread around a spool. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure near the hippocampus, plays its part like a candle lighting the corners of a dark room. When you feel something, deeply, urgently, the amygdala glows brighter. It tells the brain, this matters. Remember, this. The rhythm of a heartbeat quickening, the shimmer of tears just before they fall, the laughter that breaks unexpectedly. These are not separate from what you remember. They are the reason you remember, and so you float through that space now, that garden of neural warmth, where feelings thread their way through circuits and cells. Fear sharpens your attention, making memory vivid. Joy paints the edges of experience in brighter tones. Sorrow, slow and thick, seeps into the foundation, leaving behind echoes long after the moment passes. You might not recall the words spoken, but you remember the tremor in the voice. You remember how the light fell across someone's face. You remember how you felt. It's emotion that tells your mind what to keep. And so many of the strongest memories are tethered to feelings you didn't choose. A sense of awe at the vastness of a night sky, the quiet ache of a goodbye you didn't want to say, the childlike wonder of seeing snowfall for the first time. These emotions, like colours added to water, transform what was neutral into something luminous. The water itself remains, but now it glows with feeling. And this is the gentle strength of emotion. It makes memory heavier, not in burden, but in weight. Like a stone that grounds you, anchoring the present to the past. It makes memory meaningful. Without emotion, the mind might still record, still store, but it would not understand what to value. Emotion gives memory shape. It gives it flavor. It makes a moment worth returning to, even long after the moment has passed. You drift now through moments like these, some your own, some passed on to you through stories, through eyes you've met, through the warmth of someone's hand resting in yours. You begin to see that the landscape of memory is not dry or still. It is alive, moved by winds of feeling that reshape the hills and deepen the valleys. Even dreams are coloured this way. You may not remember their sequence, but you remember how they made you feel. The rush of flight, the pull of fear, the sweetness of laughter, even if you never saw the face that made you laugh. The brain in sleep still listens to emotion. It sorts with care. It keeps what is stirred by the heart, and emotion too can awaken memory. A scent can stir something long buried. The smell of fresh rain on soil, the faint perfume of someone from childhood. These are not just smells. They are time machines. They carry feelings forward, and the feelings pull memory behind them, like a veil slowly lifting. You didn't know it was there until it was. There is a softness in this, a kindness in the way the mind lets you feel before it asks you to name. In truth, you often remember how someone made you feel more than anything they ever said. This is not weakness. It is the strength of the emotional mind, to preserve not the facts of the story, but the truth of it. Because some truths are felt, not told. You carry them in your body, a tightness in your chest when you return to a place that once hurt you, a warmth in your hands when you hold something precious. The body too remembers. Muscles hold echoes, skin remembers comfort. The nervous system is not only reactive, it is reflective. It mirrors the emotional patterns that once shaped you. And so tonight, as you lie quietly in this space between waking and sleeping, you notice how emotion pulses beneath every thought. Like a quiet river, it moves even when the surface seems still. And when that feeling is shared, when another person's emotion meets your own, the memory deepens even more. A look, a shared silence, a laugh at just the right moment. These join the chorus of what you keep. Even pain, when held gently, becomes a thread in memory's tapestry, not to be relived endlessly, but to be understood, to remind you that you have felt and that you are still here. You survived. The mind marks what hurts, not to trap you, but to help you navigate. Like stars over a dark sea, these emotional marks become guides. You float now through the pathways lit by feeling, each step lit by the gentle strength of what you've held in your chest, and you begin to wonder, what of the feelings we don't name, the ones we half sense like music behind a wall? Are those too remembered? Do they leave their trace even when they're not clear? Science says yes. Even unspoken emotion shapes what stays. The nervous system reacts before the conscious mind understands. You feel first, you think after. This is not a flaw, it is wisdom. An ancient rhythm, preserved through time, the brain, forever listening to the heart. And when emotion becomes too much to hold, the mind finds its own ways. Sometimes it tucks the memory away. Sometimes it distorts it to protect you. Not because it wishes to deceive, but because it loves you in its quiet neural way. Memory becomes a mirror softened by fog, still there, still reflecting, but gentle now, easier to bear. So much of who you are is shaped not only by what you remember, but how you feel about what you remember. And that relationship is always shifting. A sorrow that once felt sharp may now feel tender. A joy that once seemed loud may now feel steady, like a flame that does not flicker but simply stays. This is the work of emotional memory, a steady hand weaving threads of feeling into thought, into identity, into the fabric of who you are. And now, as you lie quietly in the hush of this chapter's end, you begin to sense something beyond even this emotional depth. Something that doesn't just feel, but reflects. Not just in the heart, but in the mirror of the mind. A witness within you, noticing not just what happens, but what it means. Is it possible that memory is more than storage? More than pattern and pulse? Perhaps the next step in this journey is not about remembering alone, but about knowing that you remember. You don't realize it at first, how alive memory really is. How each recollection is not a return to something static, but a dance. Delicate, shifting, and full of new steps each time you revisit it. You think of memories as photographs sometimes, sealed and preserved, but your mind does not work like a camera. It works like a painter who returns to the same canvas again and again, adding shade, smudging light, reworking the lines until the picture evolves, not into something false, but something layered. Tonight you explore this gentle truth, that each act of remembering changes the memory itself. It begins in the soft light of recollection. You think back to a childhood day, a park, a tree, a voice calling your name. But as your mind touches this scene, you're not opening a drawer and pulling out a file. You're rebuilding. Your hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped keeper of time, sparks with activity. Neurons fire, synapses stretch. The old moment rises not from dust but from electricity. And in doing so, it becomes something slightly new. This is reconsolidation, the brain's quiet reshaping of memory. Each retrieval of a memory reactivates the neural pattern, making it momentarily flexible, almost like softened wax. During this pliable window, the memory can be strengthened, adjusted, or even altered. And so, without knowing it, you become both archaeologist and sculptor. You dig up, but you also carve. The science lives in your cells. Glutamate whispers across synapses. Protein synthesis begins anew. Neurons adjust their sensitivity to signals, a process called synaptic plasticity. These words sound clinical in textbooks, but inside your resting head, they are poetry. Your memories are poems with evolving stanzas. They rewrite themselves not to deceive, but to remain alive, adaptable, tethered to who you are now. You think of your first heartbreak. How you remember it now feels softer than it did then. Not because the event has changed, but because you have. Your brain has brushed that memory again and again, sometimes when you meant to, sometimes when you didn't. A smell, a melody, a sentence in a book, and each time the moment returns wearing slightly different colours. Emotions play their part too. Remember from before, what the heart feels, the brain tends to keep. But even the emotions can shift. A fear remembered with safety becomes wisdom. A loss revisited with time becomes gratitude. Your amygdala, that small sentinel of emotion, talks to your hippocampus in a language only they fully understand. Together they shade your memories in the hues of the present moment. It's why memory isn't reliable in the way you sometimes wish it were. Two people can recall the same afternoon and describe it in completely different ways. One might remember the laughter, the other the silence. One might feel joy, the other tension. Both are telling the truth as their minds perceive it, as their neural landscapes paint it. This is not failure, it is flexibility. It is the nature of memory in motion. Even the act of storytelling reshapes memory. When you recount a moment to a friend, choosing which details to share, which to leave out, which tone to use, your brain adapts the memory to fit the narrative. And the next time you remember that moment, it might be the story version that comes back rather than the original experience. The tale has become the truth. And yet, isn't that what makes memory human? The blend of accuracy and emotion, the interplay between fact and feeling. You remember not just what happened, but how it mattered. That significance is stamped into the memory trace like a watermark, invisible but always present. Tonight, as you rest, your memories are not quieted. They flow. Even in sleep, your brain replays fragments, a face, a phrase, a flicker of light. These fragments are not static. They shimmer with change. They move like shadows across water. Sleep allows them to settle deeper or be softened further. Your mind, even in dreams, is editing, curating, refining. Think of a well-worn path in a forest. Each time you walk it, the way becomes clearer. But the ground also shifts. Leaves fall, roots grow, weather changes the soil. So too with memory. Recall strengthens some connections and weakens others. The path remains, but it is never exactly the same. You're always walking it slightly differently. This plasticity is your strength. It lets you adapt. If memories were rigid, you could never grow beyond your pain, never revise your understanding, never shift perspective. You would be stuck in the first draft of your life. But the mind is merciful. It lets you rewrite. And yet, there is gentleness in this. You are not constantly revising like a critic, but more like a gardener, trimming here, encouraging growth there. Some memories are preserved like heirloom seeds, others fade like summer petals. Both have their purpose. Not everything must be remembered in its original form to have meaning. Sometimes the essence is enough. There are even moments you don't know you're changing. Memories that revisit you not as clear images but as feelings. A warm hesitation in your chest, a flicker of doubt before you speak, a quiet courage rising when you didn't expect it. These too are memory, though they wear no names. As you lie still, your body heavy with rest, the process continues. Glial cells sweep through your brain, clearing unused signals, making space. Synaptic pruning trims the branches that no longer serve you. And in this silence, in this dark, some memories settle further in, others rise to the surface, ready to be reshaped. Memory is not just recall, it is rehearsal, it is imagination. The same neural pathways light up whether you're remembering or imagining. This is why you sometimes can't tell if something truly happened or if you dreamed it. Your brain rehearses possible futures using the same canvas it uses for the past. The brush is the same. The direction differs. And here lies the wonder. Every act of memory is also an act of creation. You're not just remembering who you were. You are, in small ways, becoming who you are. Each memory drawn up reconfigures something in you, a belief, a reflex, a hope. There are memories you keep returning to, not to change them, but because they have something to teach you still. They arrive again and again, not as burdens, but as lessons. You feel it, the pull of them, the way your thoughts circle back. These are not loops, they are spirals. Each return is slightly higher, slightly wiser, and as you spiral gently through these layers of remembrance, a question begins to flicker at the edge of your awareness. Not a heavy question, not urgent, just a quiet wondering. If your memories are always shifting, always moving, what happens to the truth? Is there something beneath all the changes that stays the same? Is there a memory that remembers you? Let that thought settle now, like a feather drifting to rest. Let it wait with you in the quiet. There are memories you carry without knowing. They do not arrive as stories or images. They do not speak in words, yet they live in your hands, your timing, the way you flinch before a sound that never hurt you, or smile at a scent that reminds you of nothing you can name. These memories whisper in the way you pause before speaking, in the routes you choose when walking home, in the foods that comfort you for reasons you cannot explain. They move through you not as recollection, but as rhythm, as reflex, as echo. You lie still now, wrapped in quiet. The lights behind your eyelids pulse faintly, like stars in a low sky. Your thoughts drift downward, not into sleep, but into something deeper still, the vast underwater cave of subconscious memory. Here, nothing is lit directly. There are no clear windows or names, no labelled shelves to organise what is known, but there is movement, gentle currents of feeling, sensation, intuition. And within those currents, memory, stripped of detail but not of influence. Science calls it implicit memory, but you feel it as something older, something more elemental, the memory of how to walk, how to speak your first language, the memory of how a loved one made you feel safe long before you understood why. These are not facts you can summon. They are instincts that guide you. They are the tuning forks of your decisions, the silent music of your moods. You float through the basal ganglia now, that quiet keeper of routine and motion. It is here that your learned habits live, deeply ingrained, rehearsed, until they slip beneath awareness. Every time you tie your shoelaces without thinking, or reach for the light switch in a new room as if you've always known it was there, this part of your brain is whispering to you, reminding you not with words but with patterns. And just beside it, deeper still, the cerebellum plays its steady rhythm. Once thought only to balance your movements, it is now known to shape the tempo of your mind as well. Thoughts move to its beat. Memories ripple through its circuits. When you ride a bicycle years after forgetting how, This is where the memory waited. Not forgotten, not remembered. Simply alive. You drift now through memories that never had names. A childhood face you only saw once, now buried but still woven into how you judge a stranger's kindness. A song your parent hummed when they were distracted, whose melody lingers in your choices of lullabies. A fear you picked up not through danger, but through someone else's flinch. These are the echoes you don't know you remember. They live in the amygdala too, that ancient guardian of the emotion. It blinks like a lighthouse in the fog of thought, sending out signals not to explain, but to protect. When your pulse quickens in a quiet room or your breath slows near the ocean, it is your amygdala recalling things you forgot you ever knew. A smell, a tone, a shape, a silence. All these can awaken what you did not mean to keep. And here, in this slow night of stillness, you begin to realize memory does not only rise through deliberate recall, it seeps upward through sensation. It speaks in color and shadow, in the hush between two notes, in the warmth of being held. You pass through the insular cortex now, where inner states are mapped. Hunger, thirst, the shape of a sigh, and with them emotional echoes. The memory of embarrassment, for instance, may live not as an image but as a heat in your cheeks, long before your mind catches up. Or the memory of joy, a lift in your chest that bubbles up for no clear reason. Not every echo is sharp. Some are as soft as breath. Is it strange to think that you are shaped not just by what you remember, but by what you never meant to remember? That your choices are haunted gently by moments that slipped in sideways. You remember the first time you trusted someone without knowing why, or the time you hesitated, though the path ahead was clear. You called it instinct, but maybe it was echo, maybe it was memory, wearing the soft cloak of feeling. The hippocampus, too, joins this silent choir. While it builds the scaffolding of narrative memory, it also holds fragments that never make it into story. Like scaffolding left behind after the building is complete, these fragments remain, invisible but strong. They become part of how you perceive the world, how you judge time, how you recognize when something feels off. You drift past them now, the half-memories, the shadows, the glimmers, the things you never meant to keep but couldn't quite let go of. And in this gentle drift, you feel them hum around you, not as burdens, but as texture. Because what would you be without them? Not cleaner, not clearer, just emptier. These invisible layers of experience are what give your life its quiet depth. The feeling that something matters, even if you cannot say why. It is tempting to think of memory as something you can control. But now, here in this vast and hidden part of your mind, you see the truth. Much of memory is not about control. It is about conversation between your past and your present, between what you know and what your body remembers without asking. This is why music can make you cry, why a scent can bring comfort from nowhere, why a word said in a certain tone can open a floodgate of emotion you thought was long dried up. These are the echoes speaking. You remember now, not with your mind, but with your breath. A rhythm that once soothed you begins again. You do not know when it started, you do not know why it stayed, but it is here, anchoring you. And maybe this is the heart of it. Memory is not only what you keep, it is what keeps you. The way you reach for reassurance, the way you tense at sharp sounds, the way your eyes find softness in a crowded room. These are not accidents. They are signatures of the life you have lived, even the parts you no longer see. So much of who you are begins beneath awareness, in the echoes of lullabies, in the pauses of remembered arguments, in the warmth of a look that meant safety, though the words have long since faded. Tonight, you do not need to remember it all. You only need to know that nothing is lost. The brain forgets much, yes, but it keeps what matters, even if only as tone, as shape, as gravity pulling you gently towards some things and away from others. You're shaped by memories you do not recognize. You're guided by stories you have never told. You're held by echoes that rise in silence, just when you need them. Let them rise now. Let them settle like snow on branches. Quiet, familiar. Not visible, perhaps, but felt. Felt in the way your breath slows. Felt in the way your thoughts turn softer. Felt in the way you know something matters, even if you cannot name it. And if you wonder where these echoes come from, where they hide, where they sleep when they are not awake, perhaps the next place to visit is not a part of the brain, but a place between people, a place where echoes become stories, and stories become memory shared. You do not begin alone. Before your breath, before your first thought, before the sound of your own name ever brushed the edges of your ears, there were others, generations, voices, laughter, wounds. You are not the first to feel wonder or fear or longing. You inherit these things not just through language, but through something deeper, more invisible. The quiet pulse of memory passed from hand to hand, story to story, cell to cell. Tonight, you rest inside that long continuity, and you begin to notice that not every memory you carry belongs solely to you. Some feel like borrowed clothing, familiar in form yet not quite tailored to your life, a dream that doesn't feel like yours, a scent that stirs emotion without a name, a fear you've never learned yet understand. These are the echoes of lives that came before, layered into, the folds of your being like old songs woven into new air. In the dark quiet of this moment, your mind opens like a window, and through that window flows not just your story, but many. You begin to see how memory moves not just inward, but outward, passed along in glances, in lullabies, in rituals too ancient to recall. Your grandmother's hands, your father's silences, the way you always hesitate before crossing a street. Small things, subtle things, inherited not by intention, but by presence. There is a word for this movement between minds. Culture. Not just art or tradition, but the architecture of memory shared. Culture holds memory like a river holds rain. It gathers what has fallen, carries it forward, reshapes it, and lets it fall again into new lives. You are a tributary in this stream, both receiving and passing along. What was once whispered beside a fire may now live in your instincts, your intuitions, your way of understanding joy or grief. Science, too, begins to notice these quiet transmissions. Epigenetics, the study of how life's experiences can be written onto biology, tells us that memory may be etched even into the way your genes express. A grandparent who survived famine may leave behind a subtle note, a genetic bookmark, inside your body's way of responding to hunger or stress. It is not the memory itself that is passed down, but the shadow of its weight, a tilt in the soil, a soft bending of the seed, and even without biology, there are other ways memories settle within you. Language is one. The words you speak shape what you remember, and how. Some cultures remember in story, others in silence. Some keep the past alive through shared meals, or woven cloth, or names passed down like heirlooms. And even if you do not know these stories in full, your body often does. The curve of your spine as you bow your head, the cadence in your voice when you comfort someone. These things are inherited, not taught. You are a vessel for these unseen inheritances, not a container exactly, more like a moving field. You hold, but you also respond. The memories you carry are not fixed. They grow with you, change as you change, ripple as your life adds its own tones. Sometimes, a memory you didn't know you had will awaken only when someone else speaks it, when their story lands in you and finds a match, a shape, a resonance. This is how shared memory lives, like fire, not owned, but passed. Consider the way you remember home. It's not only the place you grew up in, but also the way your family defined home. Was it noise and laughter? Was it quiet and order? Was it movement, stillness? Somewhere inside you, these definitions live. and they shape the way you seek comfort, the way you define belonging, perhaps even the way you build your own homes now. And sometimes the memories you carry for others come with sorrow, grief handed down in silences, pain unspoken but present, entire generations shaped by trauma they never named, wars, displacements, losses, and that pain echoing subtly through behavior, belief, reaction. But there too is a kind of resilience passed down, a strength shaped not just in survival, but in the act of continuing, in joy reclaimed, in love remembered. When you touch this lineage of memory, it softens you. You begin to understand that your story is not isolated, that your thoughts, your hesitations, your preferences, your hopes are not entirely your own. And yet, that doesn't diminish you. It deepens you. You're not less unique for being connected. You are more, because what you carry is not just the past. It is the possibility of new meaning. You may find yourself thinking now of stories your elders told or didn't tell, of photographs in drawers, of names you were given. You may feel the shape of their lives brushing the edges of yours, and maybe, too, you feel stories from people not related to you by blood but by experience, friends, teachers, strangers. Their memories have lived in you too, because memory doesn't only move along genes, it moves along attention, along love, along the willingness to listen. In this quiet, you begin to wonder how many lives are living inside your own, how many moments you carry that were never yours to begin with, but that feel true. And as you breathe in this wondering, you feel the humility and beauty of it, to be not alone, to be not only yourself. And here's the tender paradox. While you carry these memories, through DNA, through culture, through stories, you also shape them anew. You're not a passive recipient. You're an editor, a reteller, a weaver. You decide what you pass on, what you name, what you transform. In this way, your life becomes a thread in a tapestry, not merely repeating the past, but evolving it. You are, in a sense, the memory of someone else's dream, and perhaps someone after you will be the memory of yours. So rest now in this awareness, not as burden, but as blessing. Let the memories that are not yours hold you gently. Let them remind you that even when you feel alone, you're carried, not just in heart, but in history, not just in thought, but in the quiet shaping of your breath, your steps, your wonder. And as you lie here, in this moment, in this soft night, you might begin to sense that your memory too will one day be held by someone else, not remembered perfectly, not recorded completely, but felt, echoed, alive. You are part of a memory chain older than time, wider than self, and tonight it hums quietly within you. What does it mean then to carry a memory not only for yourself, but for the future? Sometimes to hold on too tightly is to close the hand before the bloom, and so tonight, as you lie with the hush of memory trailing behind you, the quiet hum of something new begins to stir, the tender strength of letting go. Not all memories are meant to be carried forever. Some soften with time, some recede, and some, like rain evaporating from stone, disappear not in violence but in grace. You begin here, in the still space between reflection and release. The mind, like the tide, is not always in the act of gathering. Sometimes it recedes. Sometimes it offers back to silence what once lived in colour. You may think of forgetting as failure, but your brain does not. It sees forgetting as an act of balance, of mercy, a pruning of the tangled branches so that something new might grow. And in this chapter of your night, you do not gather more. You begin to set down. It starts in the amygdala, where emotion lives like firelight, and the hippocampus, where the story is shelved. When an old memory is stirred by a scent, a voice, a flicker of a dream, it is not retrieved like a book from a drawer. It is rewritten. It is reconsolidated. Memory is not a fixed relic. It is an artist, redrawing what you felt before. With each recall, the edges blur and sharpen again, slightly different each time, sometimes kinder, sometimes heavier, sometimes finally light enough to lift away. You wander slowly now through the halls of past sorrow, a childhood wound, a long-ago loss, a goodbye that once felt impossible to survive. They greet you not with the sharpness they once held, but with softened edges, not vanished, never erased, but rewritten in a language you can bear. This too is memory. This too is healing. The science calls it reconsolidation. A memory, once recalled, becomes temporarily fragile. It can be reshaped, reinterpreted, gently rewritten by new context. Just as clay softens with warmth, old pain becomes pliable again when touched by insight or by love. And in this way, memory is not only a mirror, it is a canvas. What once harmed can, over time, become something else. A lesson, a symbol, a story you tell from a safer shore. And so grief too can fade, not because it is unimportant, but because it is honoured. To forget is not to betray. It is to breathe again, to let memory release its grip so the hand may open to something else. You know this now. You feel it in the loosened ache of something you used to carry, not gone, but no longer sharp, no longer the whole of you. You recall a face that once haunted your dreams. Now it visits like a breeze. You remember a moment that used to sting. Now it flickers like candlelight, warming but not burning. This is not loss. This is the mind's art of letting go. In sleep, this letting go continues. The brain replays old circuits not to preserve them, but to refine them. Some are reinforced, others are trimmed away. Night after night, your memories are sifted and stirred, their emotional tones softened by time. In REM sleep especially, you rehearse not just facts, but feelings. And in doing so, you learn how to feel differently about what once overwhelmed you. Even trauma, held in the body as well as the brain, can be reshaped. With safety, with repetition, with care, those memories lose their sting. The circuits change, the associations dim, and though the scar may remain, the pain does not always. You may not forget what happened, but you may forget how it hurt, or at least hurt differently. This is the gift of reconsolidation. You lie now within that gift. You remember something painful, not to relive it, but to feel how it has changed, how you have changed. The weight is different. The story is new. Perhaps even the meaning has shifted. What once broke you, built you. What once frightened you, taught you. What once overwhelmed you, passed, and in its place, something gentler took root. Letting go is not forgetting entirely. It is remembering with less fear, less urgency, less attachment to who you were when it happened. You're not that person anymore. You are more. You're still becoming. There are neural pathways in your brain that once lit up in alarm. Now they quiet. There are memories once surrounded by inflammation, literal molecular markers of distress. Now those signals fade. Your body learns peace. Your mind learns how to lay something down. And as you walk this inner path, something stirs at the edges. You begin to wonder, what else could be let go? What else clings not because it must, but because you have not yet allowed it to release? You do not need all the details. You do not need all the pain. Your brain knows how to keep what matters and let the rest dissolve like mist. Trust it. Trust the process of remembering and reshaping. Trust the tides. You pass a memory now that once held sorrow, and you notice something new beside it. Laughter. The way a moment changes when told again and again, until the telling itself becomes a way to heal. This is the power of story, the soft work of repetition. Each retelling lays a new layer, each one a little lighter, a little freer. The future is not written by what you hold on to, but by what you can bear to set down, what you can transform. And your memory is not a vault, it is a river, flowing, moving, making space. You see now how forgetting is not the absence of care. It is the grace to keep going, the wisdom to not carry every weight, the kindness to yourself to release what no longer serves. Some memories will always stay, but others are visitors. They come to teach, to mark a moment, to guide you through, and when their time is done, they fade, not as erasure, but as completion. So tonight, as you lie here, you feel something loosen, a breath you didn't know you were holding, a thought you no longer need. You do not forget because it didn't matter. You forget because it mattered once, and now it matters less. Letting go is not the opposite of memory. It is memory's most graceful act, a way of choosing what to keep by learning what to set down. And in that letting go, you make room for new memory, for new peace. You may think now of someone you once loved, or a version of yourself you have outgrown. You hold them in your mind just long enough to say, "Thank you," and then you release them, not to lose them, but to continue. And as you lie with that final image softened by time and warmth, you wonder, if some memories can be reshaped into peace, can some be reshaped into hope? Let that question rest with you now. Let it wait gently in the hush between chapters. A breeze stirs just outside the edge of your thoughts. Not loud, not insistent. Just a feeling, like a leaf turning in still air, or the way your skin knows rain is coming before it falls. You don't know where it comes from, but something begins to rise. It might be a scent that opens a door you didn't know was still there. Or maybe a tune, hummed by someone behind a closed window. You pause, you breathe, and the memory returns. Not all at once, not with clarity or precision, just the shape of it, the feeling beneath it, a glimpse of something you thought had long faded. But here it is, flickering back into presence as though it had only stepped into another room. This is the mind's quiet magic, retrieval, the gentle, astonishing ability to bring something back, to trace backward through the soft fog of time and find a thread that still connects you to something you thought was gone. And it begins, always, with a spark. You may not know what the trigger will be. Sometimes it's a cinnamon-sweet breeze that reminds you of a kitchen from childhood. Sometimes it's the sound of a voice, not exact but close, pulling something loose from deep inside you. Science calls these cues mnemonic triggers, but in your world, they are moments of sudden warmth, of quiet recognition. The familiar rising out of the unfamiliar. Your hippocampus plays the role of keeper in this unfolding. Not the whole library, but the index card drawer. It tells your mind where to look. And when the right cue arrives, the hippocampus whispers to the cortex, there, right there, that pattern of neural light, that shape of emotion, reassemble it, and reassembled it becomes. But not as it once was. Memory, you now know, is not a photograph. It is a weaving, and every time you pull it out, you leave a new touch on its thread. The moment changes as you recall it, but the core of it, the feeling, the weight, the essence, remains. Some memories wait in silence for years. Others sleep closer to the surface, stirred easily. But all of them are stored not in isolation, not like boxes on a shelf, but as part of a living map. One thing links to another, and another, and another. Like mushrooms beneath the forest floor, unseen but connected. And sometimes you stumble upon a path you didn't mean to find. You walk into a room and forget why you came, but remember something else entirely. An old friend, a childhood pet, the exact blue of a sky from a summer long gone. What called it back? You don't know, but it arrives, unbidden and complete. This is because your brain does not store things by chronology alone. It stores by meaning, by emotion, by the way something felt when it happened. That's why a scent can undo you. That's why a song can return you to a version of yourself you hadn't seen in decades. Retrieval is not perfect, but it is resilient, and it is always guided by some inner compass, even when you are not aware of it. You may wonder then, what makes something retrievable in the first place? Why do some moments rise so easily and others stay buried? The answer lies in the original encoding. If something was felt deeply, if it made you laugh, cry, or freeze with awe, it etched itself in with greater depth. Emotion carves memory like a river carves stone. It doesn't guarantee permanence, but it increases the chances. The memory isn't just stored, it is tagged, highlighted, woven into more than one pathway. That's why you can forget a fact you studied last week but remember the exact sound of your grandmother's laughter from 20 years ago. The mind remembers what matters to the heart. Even trauma, painful as it is, works this way. It stays vivid not because you want it to, but because the mind marked it as critical. And yet, even these memories can change. Retrieval is a chance to reshape. Every time you recall something, the memory becomes momentarily flexible. Science calls it reconsolidation. The mind resaves it, like editing a document and hitting save again. This is how healing happens. You return to the place that once hurt, and this time you are not alone. This time you have grown. You bring new context. You bring new safety. And what was once unbearable becomes part of your story, softened. Sometimes the most important memories return when you least expect them. You're looking for your keys and instead you find your childhood. You're walking through a crowd and suddenly someone's perfume brings back your first heartbreak. These moments do not come with explanation. They do not ask permission, but they remind you that nothing is ever truly lost, only sleeping, only waiting. And sometimes, what returns is not a moment, but a lesson, a knowing, a kind of wisdom you forgot you once earned. You do not remember the moment it was learned, but here it is, guiding your hand, shaping your next word. Your mind is layered. Some memories live in language, others in movement, others still in feeling alone. You may not remember the words someone once said, but you remember how they made you feel. That too is memory. That too can return. Memory is not a filing cabinet. It is a living garden. Some things grow wildly, others lie dormant. But with the right conditions, warmth, light, a sudden rain of meaning, even the long-forgotten seeds begin to stir. That is what retrieval feels like. A sprout you did not plant rising in your chest. A song humming through your fingertips before you realize you know it. And sometimes what wakes the memory is your body. The way your hand reaches for a doorknob in a motion you haven't made in years. The way your shoulders relax when you walk into a room that feels like home. This is implicit memory. Felt, not spoken. Known, not named. Even in dreams, memories surface. Not always clearly, not always in order. But the dream world is your brain's private theatre, replaying, remixing, reminding. You do not need to force memory to return. You only need to be present when it arrives. Be gentle with it. Be curious. It may not be complete. It may not be entirely accurate, but it is yours, and it comes with a message. That who you are today is built not just on what you remember, but on what remembers you. The impressions you left. The shapes of laughter and longing, the whispers of your earlier self. To retrieve is not only to go back, it is to become whole again, to bring a missing part into the light, and sometimes someone else holds the key, a shared memory, a story told at the right moment, a photograph that stirs more than what is seen. You are not the only keeper of your past. You are one node in a web of remembering. What you forget, another may recall, and in telling the story they return something to you. Memory is not linear, it moves like water, and what was lost may simply have taken a different path, found a different way back. So when you feel that sudden wave of recognition, Let it carry you. Let it take you not just to the moment, but to the feeling, the lesson, the self you once were and still are. You are finding what was never truly lost. And perhaps now, a new wondering begins to unfold. If memories can rise again with such clarity, if they wait like seeds and sparks and songs in the silence, then where do they truly live? Not just in brain tissue, not just in networks of neurons, but perhaps in the rhythm of your breath, in the way your voice softens when you speak someone's name, in the hush that follows a memory found. Let that hush remain with you now, quiet as snowfall. Let it drift beside you into what comes next. You are the story that remembers, not because you recall every detail, not because you hold on tightly, but because you live, moment by moment, in a dance with what has been. What rises, what fades, what returns. Memory is not a shelf lined with unchanging books. It is water, always flowing, always shaping the banks it runs through. And you, quietly, are the riverbed. You are the movement, the curve, the pause between bends. You're not your memories, but you are where they come to rest. You lie still now, wrapped in night, the hush of sleep just beyond the edge of your thoughts. Somewhere in the dark a scent drifts by, lavender, or maybe rain on stone, and for a moment you're not sure whether the memory is yours or just part of the air. That is how it is now. Some memories live in you without asking for your attention. They do not knock, they do not speak loudly, but they guide your steps, shape your breath, turn your gaze. A face flickers in your mind, someone you knew once, or someone who shaped someone you love. You do not recall the name, but you remember the warmth. That too is memory. Not the kind you recite, but the kind you feel, like a chord echoing in a song you cannot sing, but somehow know. You wonder how many such chords hum within you, carried from your parents, their parents, all the stories told and untold. You're a vessel of echoes, some ancient, some made only yesterday. Science once searched for memory as a thing, a location, a vault, a neuron where experience was locked like a key in a drawer. But it turns out memory is not stored. It is woven, dynamic, electrical, chemical, alive. Every time you remember differently. You paint the memory again, even if you think you're only observing. And in that act of remembering, you become the artist, the brush, the canvas. What you recall is never fixed, and yet it is still yours. You have forgotten more than you will ever know, but you have also remembered in ways you do not understand, in gesture, in rhythm, in instinct. Memory is not merely held in the folds of your brain, but in the reach of your arms, the tilt of your smile, the quiet you fall into when you're safe. It is in how you walk into a room, how you leave it. It is in the softness with which you say goodbye. You think now of what you once feared you had lost. That moment of laughter with someone no longer here. That old phrase your grandmother used to say. That place in the forest where the light filtered down like golden mist. You thought it was gone. But then, without trying, it found you. Not in full, not perfect, but enough. Enough to know it was never truly lost. Sometimes memory returns not because you search, but because you open. The brain, like a field after rain, softens, and from its soil, roots stir. You're not digging, you're receiving. A song plays, and suddenly you're dancing again, 10 years younger, barefoot in some kitchen filled with light. You didn't mean to remember, but you did. This, too, is science. The hippocampus, the amygdala, the networks of association that bind scent to sight, emotion to sound. You're a living constellation. No one part alone holds the memory. It is the pattern that matters, the dance, the river, and you are the one who notices the stars align, even if only for a moment. You rest now. But beneath your rest, your brain still moves. Gentle pulses, quiet reorganizations. In sleep, memories are sorted, Some are kept, some are softened, some are allowed to fade, their sharpness dulled by time and healing, and others return to you as dreams, not factual, not linear, but rich, symbolic. They speak in the language of feeling, of symbol, of thread, and when you wake, you carry them, not always knowing why, but feeling different somehow. Realignment has occurred, not like a clock being wound, but like a stream finding a new path through the stones. That is the mind's quiet art. It does not erase, it reweaves. You remember now the ones who taught you how to remember, the ones who showed you what mattered, even if they never said it aloud, the way they looked at you when you were hurting, the way they smiled when you entered the room. Those glances, those pauses, they imprinted upon you, and though they may never have known, they became part of your story, still flowing, still alive. So you carry them, and someone, one day, will carry you. Not in body, not in name, but in gesture, in kindness, in the way they pause to listen. You are the story that remembers, not just for yourself, but for the world that shaped you, and for the one that is still becoming. You are the lullaby sung across generations, the thread pulled gently through time. Memory is not a list. It is a rhythm, a breath, a firelight flicker on cave walls and the sound of your own voice whispering, "I remember," even when you forget, even when the name slips, even when the picture fades, the feeling remains, the warmth, the knowing, the flowing. So now, as you lie at the close of this journey, in this final hush, this soft dark, this deep night, you are not empty. You are full. Full of songs you did not write but know. Full of stories you did not live but hold. Full of memories that do not end but transform. And so you rest. Not because the story is over, but because it flows on without needing to be told. Because it flows through you. Because you are the story that remembers. Thank you for listening, dear dreamer. Stay tuned. More wonders wait just beyond the next star. Until then, good night. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and let your thoughts drift gently home.